Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to this discussion dialogue regarding the state of grace. How are you doing this evening, Deacon Hall and Brother?
Everything is well.
Everybody's well?
Yeah,
good.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
So
I hope you are too.
I am. I'm great. Thank you. Thank you both for joining us this evening as we have this dialogue prior to the live broadcast coming from our pastor, Reverend Alan M. Ford of Grace First Baptist Church in San Antonio. So we just thought we'd have a chat prior to that live discussion. But before we get into the dialogue, if you would just tell, I know you both well, but there's probably some people on the line who are not familiar with your faces. So Deacon Major Hall, if you would just kind of tell us who you are and your role at Grace First Baptist Church and maybe how long you've been a member there.
Well, I'm, again, Deacon Major Hall. I'm the chairman of deacons at Grace First Baptist Church. Been at Grace about 40 years. Seen a lot, experienced a lot, but overall, we as deacons are here to support Grace, support the pastors, support the board of directors as we support each other.
Amen. And Brother Greg Bellany, can you tell us a little bit about your role at Grace and how long you've been a member as well?
Yeah, my name is Greg Bellany. I am the chairman of the board of directors here at Grace. My wife, Delisa, and I have been a part of Grace for 23 years now, and we just consider it family. I've been on the board for 9 years, and I've been the chairman of the board for 6 years now. And I'm just like Deacon Hall, just proud to be a servant of God and to do our work at Grace First Baptist Church.
Yeah, and I should introduce myself. I'm Carmen Miles, and I've probably been around at Grace just as long as Deacon Hall, but I have left the city and traveled back. So I've been back with Grace for the last 3 or 4 years. So again, thank you for joining us. We're just going to go right into our dialogue. And my first question is just in your opinion, and I'll start with Deacon Hall if you don't mind getting us started.
Yes.
In your opinion, how do you think Grace has really fared during this pandemic? Do you believe that we've been successful in maintaining a sense of church? And basically, just how do you think we've done? And would there be anything that you would change? Maybe?
I feel God has richly blessed us. Giving and tithes increased. We are getting support from others outside of Grace First Baptist Church because of the live streaming. And we just are in a situation where God has richly blessed us. Other churches may be suffering. Some churches may be barely making it, but Grace is faring well. I'm just so glad that God has blessed us richly to continue to carry on his work.
Amen. Greg Bellany, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Deacon Hall. I think that we have fared remarkably well over the last few months. I thank God that we have no known cases of the COVID-19 virus at our church and our church members. We still have a powerful Bible study every Wednesday night via the internet. The pastor also gives a powerful sermon every Sunday. So we are doing very well for that. I am also thankful to all the members of Grace First Baptist Church and then the friends of Grace First Baptist Church for their commitment. Our congregation has continued to give to our church financially, and that has been able to help us stay strong.
Speaking in regards to the sense of the church, what long-term effects, if any, do you believe this COVID-19 pandemic will have on the church, and what adjustments, if any, do you feel will be necessary based on what this pandemic has brought to us?
Okay, I'll try it first if you want.
Go ahead, right ahead.
I believe that it has made our church stronger. Deacon and I are both retired military, and we know that whenever you go through a difficult task or a difficult time and you come out on the other side, you're stronger. So I think as a church body, we are coming through this well, and thanks be to God, we are stronger. Our bonds are closer. I notice it every time we have a meeting from the leadership team or with the business meeting or talking to our church members. They feel closer to one another. And so I think that's what's going to come from this, just a stronger bond. As far as adjustments, Deke's right. The priority should be keeping each other safe. And I'll admit up front that I'm a hugger. And I used to, and I love going to our church where we have so many lovable people, and they're huggers too. But I think those days might be in the past now, and that for the coming future, we have to keep each other safe through social distancing and through whatever means we need so that we don't infect one another. So I think some adjustments are coming, but I think I think we're ready. I think we're ready to accept those changes.
I'm right there with you, Greg. I'm a hugger too, and it's been hard not to embrace, one another, as even my own mother, who is a little bit older and susceptible to some of the virus. So using all caution is definitely key for us. Definitely key. As we begin to plan and prepare ourselves to return to in-person fellowship, Deacon Hall, what do you believe is the responsibility of the church? Meaning, there are going to be some people who are a little bit nervous about returning, but what's our responsibility to help our congregation feel at ease and so that they know and they feel confident that they're entering into a healthy environment?
I feel that if we keep sanitizing the church, keep the church, once you sanitize it and get it ready for the members to come in, then we need to practice the social distancing. We need to have hand sanitizer on hand all throughout the church. You need to make sure or ensure that they wear the mask. And if we decide that gloves is going to be the next step, that they do that, because that is going to be part of what's going to indicate that we're trying to keep them safe.
That's absolutely the key. Deke hit it right on the nose. And our responsibility now as a church family is to enforce that. I know that the pastor and the deacons and the staff will all be out there encouraging people to follow the rules that the state and the mayor has put out there. But we have to remind them we cannot afford to be lackadaisical about this. We have to remind everybody, wear your mask, keep a good distance. No hugging, Brother Bellamy. Keep the hand sanitizer available. And one of the things that I know the pastor has done and that we will continue to do over the next several months is we're cleaning the church all the time. We're sanitizing the church all the time. And that won't stop. That will continue to make sure that our environment is safe. And I think the congregation will feel safe because they'll see us doing those safe things.
So I imagine that as we start to make our way and mitigate back into in-person fellowship, that there are going to be some people that are anxious, some nervous, some even very just scared, just frightened to mitigate back into larger gatherings when we've been quarantined by ourselves and with spouses and small families, right? So it may be scary for some. To venture back out into that in-person fellowship. What do you say to those individuals, Deacon Hall?
With that, I would say that we have the best interests of our congregation in mind every time they come to our church. We want them to know that. We want them to feel that. I do want to expand that if our congregation feels that they are in need of spiritual or emotional care or help, I want to remind them that our pastor is a certified counselor and that many of our associate ministers are also skilled in counseling. And then I'll let them know that our deacons ministry are extremely good at listening and also advising them on how they can get spiritual help and in this case, emotional help if needed. I want to make sure that our church members know that if they need any type of help, spiritually or emotionally, that our church is ready to help them out. Do not be afraid to talk to our church. Each one of us has a deacon who is responsible for communicating our needs up to the pastor and throughout the church. use your deacon ministry. They are a force and they will help. So please, please, please don't let your family or yourself go without the help that you need. I know these are anxious times, but God will prevail as he always does, and use the resources that God gave Grace First Baptist Church to be the family that we are.
Amen. Amen. Great advice. Great advice. Well, that's really all the questions that I have for you today. I have just one more. If you had to sum up the state of grace in just one sentence, Deacon Hall, what would that be?
If I had to sum it up in one sentence, I would say we are in a good state. We are doing we are following directives that has been given to us, and because of that, we are in good shape.
Yeah. And you, Brother Bellamy, want to take us out?
I would look to the members and say I have two words that I could say about the state of grace: strong and blessed. I think that we are financially strong thanks to your giving. Please keep giving so we can help others as well. I think that we are blessed in that, again, none of our members directly have been affected, but we also are blessed in that we can be a help to one another. So I believe that the state of grace is strong and blessed.
Amen. Amen. We are a resilient church body. So I want to thank both of you for your time today and just having this discussion pre-State of Grace. So now we're going to hear from our pastor, Reverend Alan M. Ford, on the State of Grace. So stay with us for this live broadcast.
Amen. Thank you very much, Carmen.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening, my Grace family. And I want to welcome you tonight this evening to the State of Grace. I thank Deacon Hall and Brother Bellamy for giving some insight into the State of Grace. And I felt like the Grace family needed an opportunity to see what some of the other leaders were thinking about how Grace is doing and how God has blessed us. On this night, I just really want to first give praise and honor to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. He has blessed us beyond measure. He has kept us from ourselves. I also want to give thanks to a couple of people making this broadcast and this live stream possible. Demetrius Green, our Director of Technology and Media, has been working hard throughout the pandemic to get us up live for Facebook and YouTube. And he's doing a wonderful job of making sure that I can communicate God's message and God's love to his people. And then we brought on Carmen Miles, who's our creative design and communication director. And she's been busy communicating updates, communicating COVID-19 updates to me, writing stuff, putting videos out. So I thank God for those individuals. And not only those two, but there are a lot of the people behind the scenes that I don't want to miss any names, but you know who you are. So I want to thank God for you. I also want to thank God for my wife, because she's been telling me, hey, I've seen you more before COVID-19 happened than now, because I'm having a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of different live stream things going on. But I want to thank her for being so patient. Then I want to thank Grace First Baptist Church. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for your dedication to the Lord, your dedication to the body. Thank you for your prayers for me. Thank you for not only your prayers, but just thank you for your kind words that I received from the emails, and not only me, but other leadership members as well. So we thank you, Grace. And then we also have an extended audience that I like to thank for just watching us and praying for us and engaging with us and letting us know that we're making a difference in their lives. So on this night, on the State of Grace, I want to open up with just a few words that I really wrote. I just wanted to share with you. As this pandemic approached and intruded into our everyday lives, or every area of our lives, we all had to readjust and reorganize how we lived day by day. Masks and gloves, Zoom live stream became our new normal. Fellowship in the church became less physical and more spiritual with each passing Sunday. COVID-19 changed the creature, but had no power to change the creator who was blessed forevermore. Romans 1:25, amen. The verse I want to use as we get into our state of grace, so you know exactly where we are, is Matthew chapter 6, verses 33 through 34. And those verses says, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for tomorrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. The word sufficient means enough. Jesus saying there's enough evil in the day that you don't have to worry about the evil of tomorrow. COVID-19 was a first for all of us. It was a first for civic leaders, it was a first for scientific leaders, and it was a first for church leaders. Unlike the government and scientific leaders, the church had to look to Jesus and do first things first. What was the first thing the church had to do? We had to pray. What was the second thing the church had to do? We had to pray. What was the third thing the church had to do? We had to pray. And after we prayed, we had to be led by the Spirit to make wise decisions for the entire body at Grace First Baptist Church. So tonight I want to talk to you about the state of grace and where we are and how we're going to reopen and when we're going to reopen. But I want to get there by showing you some things we had to do from those verses. Number one, the first thing we had to do, we had to refocus our hearts. Matthew 6:33 says, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. We had to refocus our hearts as a church body, seeking God first. We had to seek God first. In 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 13, God said this to Solomon, and I have also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any kings among thee like unto thee all thy days. Solomon prayed to God that God would bless him to be able to judge his people with wisdom. And God said to Solomon, because you were seeking me, because you were seeking my wisdom, because you were seeking my guidance, I'm going to give you things that you didn't ask for. So when we're seeking God first, and we had to refocus and we had to seek God first. And one of the first thing I had to do as the pastor of Grace First Baptist Church was go to God and say, Lord, how are we going to do this? COVID-19 is among us. It's not going anywhere. So we had to draw down our membership slow. And as we drew down our membership slow, we was able to phase out from an in-person worship service to eventually a live stream worship service. So we had to refocus our hearts. And my brothers and sisters, God has gotten our attention. God says sometimes people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. And so we had to refocus our hearts, and God was looking for refocused hearts, those hearts that are seeking God first, like Solomon. And look what God has done. We've been seeking God first, and God has been blessing us and watching over us. And number two, not only seeking God first, but we had to refocus our hearts, pleasing God first, pleasing God first. In Colossians chapter 1, verse 10, Paul said this to the Colossians, that you may walk worthy of the Lord unto all pleasing, being fruitful in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of God. See, when we are pleasing God or seeking to please God first, then what God would do, he would make us fruitful in the work he's called us to do. Then he will increase our knowledge of him. And as he increases our knowledge of him, he blesses us along the way. So we had to refocus our hearts. We had to love the Lord with all our hearts and souls and minds and bodies and strength. Then we had to love our neighbors as ourselves. That's what God required of us, and that's what God is requiring of us. So the state of grace, in the state of grace, our church is strong because we refocused. We refocused. We was loving God, but we had to seek God earnestly and diligently with all our hearts. And we had to please God first, walking worthy of this high calling, and watching God be fruitful in our lives. You heard from Deacon Hall, and you heard from Brother Bellany, the chairman of the deacon board and the chairman of the board of directors. And I conveyed that to them as we met several times, that God has been gracious and God has blessed us abundantly through his people. You have been generous. You have been more than generous. You have been giving and taking care of us. And we thank the Lord that I've been able to preach and teach, and the associate ministers have been able to preach and teach, and the deacons have been able to counsel, and the prayer team has been able to pray. And God has been blessing us through all those leaders who are doing their part. So the first thing that we had to do, we had to refocus our hearts. Number two, we had to redirect our service. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 34, it says, take therefore no thought for tomorrow. For tomorrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the days the evil thereof. Jesus was saying, you got to redirect your service. Don't worry about tomorrow. You have to worry about serving me now. And I told you, Grace First Baptist Church, that we couldn't serve God in person, but we could serve God by giving. And you gave a lot to the things of the Lord. The first thing that we had to do when we directed our service, we had to fellowship through prayer. Fellowship through prayer. We couldn't pray in person anymore, but we were all praying. And in Acts chapter 12, verse 5, it says this: Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the church unto God for him. We were praying. You were praying for me, and I felt your prayers. Matter of fact, the women who will took out of their schedules, and they came to the church, and they had a prayer circle. They had their mask on. They had the social distancing. They were able to put music out there. They was able to pray for Grace First Baptist Church, for the pastor. They was able to pray for those frontline workers who are putting their lives on the line, those medical workers, those first responders. They was able to pray for leaders in our government. They was able to pray. And I'm telling you, I felt their prayers. So we wasn't all together praying, but we had fellowship through prayer. And prayer was made by you guys. And you can see what prayer will do when we have fellowship through prayer. We had to redirect our service. Fellowship through prayer. In our homes, we were praying. We were praying hard and fervently. The Bible said the frequent fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much, James 5:16. Luke 18:1 says, Jesus said, I spake this parable to them to this end, that men ought to always pray and not to faint. And Grace, you're praying, and I ask you to continue to pray for me and my family, for our church family, for those who are losing loved ones right now. Even in San Antonio right now, we had 1,976 cases of COVID-19. But just today, it's up to 2,001 cases. That's in Bexar County. We had lost, and one life gone is too many. But yesterday it was 58. Today, another person passed away, for a total of 59 loved ones that COVID-19 has touched their hearts and has caused some grief in our families, because we are in the community at San Antonio and Bexar County. And so I say our families. We don't know them, but we come to them through Facebook and YouTube, and so they're part of the Grace family. And so how do we redirect our service? Fellowship through prayer. We overcame together. The word together is another word for shared fellowship. Not only that, but fellowship through giving. Fellowship through giving. In 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 5, Paul said this to the Corinthians: and this they did, not as we hoped, but first they gave them their own selves to the Lord, and then to us by the will of God. Grace, what you did is fellowship through giving. I mean, you stepped up to the plate because you understood that we couldn't worship God with the gifts he gave us. So we worship God with the resources we got from the gifts he gave us. And we are still doing a great job. And I ask you, don't stop. Don't stop, because we are reaching people. Just as the day we had a COVID-19 food drive last Friday. We gave away 90 boxes of food that was able to feed from 500 to 700 family members. But I want you to know, just this week, I think we've given away another 13, 14 boxes, maybe more. We had 30 some left. We got 19 boxes because we got 18 left. So we're still reaching people. And one of the ladies that came by was reported to me by youth leader Darren Wright, that she said, when are you guys going to do this again? People are hurting. We saw Mercedes, we saw Cadillac. Listen, when you're hurting and you're going through, it doesn't matter what you're driving. It doesn't matter. You want somebody to help you. And so, Grace, your giving is reaching far beyond our walls, not only our members, but into our community and then to our broader community. You are going in Jerusalem. You are going to Judea, Samaria, and to the uttermost parts of the earth. And so we're a fellowship through giving. And what did we do? We gave generously. We gave generously. And finally, that number 3, fellowship through media. Through media. The Apostle Paul was really great, as he says this to the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22. To the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak. I have become all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. What did we do? We knew that we had to reach our members through media. So Demetrius Green, our director of technology and media, man, he went to work. He went to work first doing some pre-recorded services and then getting it on live stream. He did such a wonderful job. People called me up, was that live or was it Memorex? But it wasn't, at the time it wasn't live, it was recorded, but he did such a wonderful job. But we knew that the job was heavy. And the load was heavy to bear by yourself. So he asked some other people, Billy Weaver and Marcus Hall and Joe Guntz and O.C. Carr. But also we knew we had to bring somebody else on to lighten the load. And I talked to the other leadership members, and Grace, you had already voted about bringing on somebody to be part-time to help us out on our contract side. And I brought in Carmen Miles during this pandemic time, and she's been a gem in the rough. We first had her as a creative design and media assist, but when we're dealing with HEB and different organizations, we needed the director to deal with those people. So good people who helped us with COVID-19 distribution, by the way, HEB and Our Daily Bread. But Carmen Miles came on, and I changed the title from creative design and media assistant to creative design and communication director, and she's really doing a good job. Matter of fact, she's going to come on with me in a few minutes. And not only that, but as we started to get the gospel out, not only to our members, we got the gospel out to people in Kentucky. I've received messages from Louisville and different places in Kentucky and Tennessee and Alabama and South Carolina and North Carolina and California. There's Garrett Arnett. He's in California, and he's Gavin, I think his name, one of those names. Please forgive me if I got the first name wrong. But he just was online last night. He says, "Hi, Grace family. I'm watching from California." I think he's the nephew of brother and sister Panky. So he was there. And not only that, but in Louisiana, and I mean, just different places, we were able to reach people with the gospel and connect them to Christ, and then connect them to Grace First Baptist Church. Matter of fact, we had 3 new members to complete orientation, 3 new members. 2 of them had joined before we completed them. We thank God for Anthony Linson and Norma Linson, and Desiree. She joined when we was going through our service, Desiree Linson. We thank God for her. We have another member in orientation. Her name is Tiffany Phillips. She's the daughter. She's not finished with orientation, but she's in orientation, and her name is Tiffany Phillips, and she's going through orientation with our own Deacon Knowles. So she hasn't completed it yet, but she's in there. And also, my cousin joined by way of live stream through Bible study last night. We're gonna get with her. I do have her phone number and stuff. We're gonna get with her and see if we can connect her. We also have 2 other people, a family who wants to join us right out of Fort Worth, Texas. We're gonna get with them and talk with them and see how we can make that happen. We have another family right here in San Antonio who wants to join us now, but he wants to be baptized. And we thank God for him and his wife who wants to be a part of Grace First Baptist Church. So what you're doing, your giving, is causing us to go beyond our borders, go beyond the normal, and reach others with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we had a chance to pray with LaVon Tucker last night, and my own cousin Joyce Ford. And LaVon Tucker said, "I haven't been in church since I was deployed. Thank you for praying for my strength." So you are making a difference. So what did we do? We had fellowship through media. Fellowship through media. And fellowship through media, we stayed connected. We cried when we saw videos. We laughed when we saw videos. Carmen and Demetrius put those things together with help from some of the families. And we saw people singing. We saw people having a announcement party or unveiling party of the baby. We saw different things, man. Our young adults are getting fed through young adult Zoom in. Our youth from high school to middle school and elementary. Every Wednesday night, Sister Wanda Guts, who is the director of our youth department, and Darren Wright, who is he's the leader of our young adults and youth. I'm telling you, they're doing it every Wednesday night. They're growing that ministry through Zoom. So we want to thank God for that. So Grace, through your giving, we are able to do what God has called us to do. So I wanted to let you know that we had to refocus our hearts, seeking God first, pleasing God first. We had to redirect our service, fellowship through prayer, fellowship through giving. And then we had to have fellowship through media. And God is blessing us. I'm so excited to get up to be able to preach on Sunday morning. I already have my sermon ready for Sunday morning. I'm excited about that. But lest we hold you too long, the third thing that we looked at when we talked about the state of grace is we have to reopen with care. And this is where I would lay out some things, and then you guys can talk to Carmen, and Carmen will give me some of the questions, and I'll try to answer many of the questions I can within the short time that we have. So listen, we have to, this is in the present tense. The other two was in the past tense. We had to refocus, we had to redirect, but now we have to, present tense, reopen. When we put open in it, we have to reopen with care. And the first question we have to ask, you may be wanting to ask me as the pastor of Grace First Baptist Church, how do we reopen with care? The first thing that we have to do, and you heard it from Brother Bellany and you heard it from Deacon Hall, we have to open with care by following state, city, and county guidelines, or what they call EOPs, Emergency Operation Procedures. So we have to follow those guidelines. Right now, we are in phase one of reopening. And let me say something about phase one of reopening. Because we are a church, we are autonomous and we are protected by the First Amendment. The governor knew that, the mayor knew that, Judge Wolf knew that. What the mayor did, Mayor Newenberg, and I thank God for his leadership along with Judge Nelson Wolf and our governor, Governor Greg Abbott. But what they did was they asked the churches if we would adhere to the guidelines they set forth. And as much as I can tell, there hasn't been a church that's been complaining about the guidelines set forth. We have been maintaining our social distancing. We have been keeping our numbers down. We have been following the guidelines that have been set forth by them. You know, stay at home and stay safe. Those orders they gave us. We was able to have a group to stay within that 10 person or less at the time. And we was able to continue to reach grace and keep you connected. Let me say something about those guidelines. I said before earlier, I've looked at those guidelines and read those guidelines a few times. Earlier, San Antonio just last night had 1,976 people that was affected by COVID-19. And today is 2001. Just last night, that's the Bexar County. Bexar County. And today, just looked at it to get an update, it's 2001. What that means is a few more people have contracted this dreaded disease. And then one person died. Now in Bexar County, there is 59 people that have died from it, one too many. I've also looked at zip codes. Our church is in 78227. And when you look at zip code, it will show you how many people has been affected in our zip code. So in our zip code of 78227, where our church is, Grace First Baptist Church, it's between 40 and 80 people have been affected by COVID-19, has contracted that disease. In my own zip code, 78253, it's between 20 and 40. So you can go online and look at your zip code and it will show you. Now the biggest zip code and that's been affected is 78207. I think that's somewhere downtown. That one has 80 plus. And so that's a district, that's an area that's been affected. So we're not just monitoring what happens at Grace First Baptist Church. As a pastor and other pastors, we have to monitor everything that goes on here. And I want you to know, I said again, this is a first for the governor, for the president, for the governor. This is a first for the mayor and for Judge Wolf. And this is the first for pastors. So we are all learning as we go. So we're trying to make sure we keep Grace safe and our membership safe as we go. So we're going to add things and change things as we go to make sure we can adhere to guidelines. But make no mistake about it. We first have to seek God through prayer. And then we have to obey the governments as long as they don't tell us to not worship God. And they have never said that. They said you can still live stream, you can do Facebook. Just please do us a favor and abide by the rules, which we have done and many other churches have done. So we got to follow the guidelines, the EOPs. Number two, by engaging with local churches and parachurch organizations. Long before we were getting information from our mayor, I was engaging with local churches and parachurch organizations. Thomas Rayner comes on and gives me a email every day, and he was talking about different programs and different ways to reopen and different things you can do. And I'm gonna stop for a moment and see if we have any questions. But we have to engage with local churches and parachurch organizations. I mean, great friends of mine, Pastor Kevin Nessler, Calvary Baptist Church, Pastor Herman Price of St. John Baptist Church, Pastor Dwayne Thomas of Westridge Park First Baptist Church, Pastor Jackson of West Laurel Heights Baptist Church, and it goes on and on. Pastor Daly of Macedonia, Dr. Daly and Dr. Stevenson of New Covenant, and it goes on and on. Reaching out, seeing what they're doing, talking to them. Matter of fact, CCSA, we had our own meeting, and we talked about the organization and what we're doing, and then we talked about how we're trying to bring our churches back in-person service. Not only that, but the BMU's got a great leader who's leading them right now, Patrick Jones, and he's doing a good job sending us information. He just sent me information about testing that's going to be taking place this weekend. He sent it to me, and I thank God for it. And let me share it with you. He says COVID-19 walk-up testing, no appointment needed, limit to 150 people per each location, May the 14th through the 16th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Southside Lines Community Center. That's 3100 Hathaway Street, San Antonio, and the Claude Black Community Center. That is 2805 East Commerce Street. You guys may know what it is. That's May the 14th through the 16th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Listen, we are getting information from parachurch organizations. We're trying to make sure that I'm trying to make sure when I make a decision, I'm trying to do it first with the guidance of the Holy Spirit. Second, with scientific information, and then with government guidance, so that we can make sure we keep our members safe. And so we're engaging with those different pastors. We're not only engaging with them, but we're supporting churches who are having hard times. So your resources are supporting those churches. We just supported a couple of churches. We won't call names. We thank God for that, but that's neither here nor there. But we're doing those things. So what? First, by following state and county guidelines, EOPs, by engaging with local churches and parachurch organizations. Number two, by understanding that this disease is no respecter of person. Do you know that in San Antonio, the Black population, there's only 7.2% in San Antonio. Now, if you counted those on Lackland and those at Fort Sam, well, it'll be almost 10% or 11%, but they don't count their populace. So Grace First Baptist Church, I want you to know that's only about 7.2%, but of that 7.2% of the deaths and of the cases, 24% of African Americans have been affected. That's too high, 24%. And we only make up 7.2% of the population. Now, the Hispanics population, which is the biggest part of the population, maybe about 62%, 52% of them have been affected, whether it be with COVID-19 or with the deaths. And then the white population, which makes about 22% of San Antonio, 22% of them have been affected. And then the Asian population, 2% has been affected. So we're looking at what's going on in our communities, because our community is bigger than the Black community. Our community is the San Antonio and Bexar County community, but yet we want you to know what is going on. We're looking at this. I'm looking at this all the time and engaging. And when I get it, I share it with the deacons and the board of directors. But ultimately, when we decide to come back, I have to make a decision that God gives me direction, and then make this decision, and then let the board and deacon know, hey, I'm making this decision because this is what God would have us do with the church. And then trust that God, and I know he knows what he's doing, and trust that we're going to do what we are doing. So that's by understanding the disease of no respect of persons. Gave you some stats and stuff so you can look them up. All you got to do is go to COVID-19, San Antonio. You can bring up the graphs. You can bring up everything. You can bring up the different deaths, the different populations, and you can bring it all up. I've been there doing it, and I'm telling you, it's fascinating, but it's still hard. It's disheartening because people are losing their lives. And if you look at it right now, I think there was 60-some people that's in the hospital, 30-some on ventilators. In ICU, man, it's tough. It's heartening. I mean, my heart goes out. We're praying about it. I just went by and saw a couple of restaurants. One of my favorite pizza places Papa Murphy's is closed down. People are losing their jobs because of this. Not only that, but Fire Brick Pieces, I think they came in now, they're closed down. So these jobs, they're not coming back. We're looking at all of that as well. How is it going to affect us not only in our spiritual growth and affect us physically with our health, but economically? How's it going to affect us? So we're looking at all of that as a church. Okay, next, by practicing proper distancing and PPE. That's how we're going to open. In other words, when we do come back to Grace First Baptist Church, everybody listen to me carefully. We will have to make sure that we practice proper distancing and PPE. So when you come back to Grace First Baptist Church, you would have to wear a mask, period. We ordered some masks already. So if you don't have one, we're going to have our Bexar County police officers there. In San Antonio, they will give you a fine if they catch you without a mask. So you would have to put a mask on. That's people in media. That's people all over the church. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And so if you come in and you don't have a mask, don't get mad at pastor. Don't get mad at the people who are telling you. They're going to say, pastor said, and that's where it's going to have to go, because we got to protect not only you, but we got to protect everybody coming into grace. So you have to wear a mask. Hey, I would prefer that you wear gloves. The people and the staff know that I have my gloves on sometimes. Most of the time they see me with my gloves on. I'm in there with my mask on. We're doing proper distancing, and we have our PPEs on. If you're working at Grace, the staff, they have to wear their mask. Now, if they're in the office and nobody's around, they can take that mask down, because our offices are spread out so far that if you don't go to the gym, you'll never see Billy over there working over there. So, but he is over there. So practicing proper distancing and PPEs. Another thing we're going to do, and we got some guidance from our healthcare team. That was Sister Panky. I did talk to her. She worked into midnight, and I know she sent it out to all the healthcare team members. She just gave us some guidelines that we can follow, and they're really in line with what I'm talking about now. The recommendation of the CDC guidelines in COVID-19. Taking digital temperatures. So when you come in, we want to have a digital temperature. So if your temperature is above 99, we're going to turn you around and say, hey, you might want to go talk to your healthcare provider, have them check you out. We're doing it for your safety and for our safety. But what we cannot do is ask you these questions about filling out a letter or filling out a form to tell us when you last went out of the city. That's not for non-health organizations and churches. We're not going to do that. We can't do that. We will provide sanitizing stations. When you come in, I think Billy and I just marked it out, we probably going to have more than 10 of those in the church. And we already put up COVID-19 signs. When you go into the bathroom, you'll see those signs, washing your hand, proper sanitizing. When you go to the MPC, you'll see a sanitizing station. You'll see signage all over the place. When you come into the sanctuary, you'll see signage all over the place. We are doing those things, and thanks to healthcare for doing that. We would document when we clean. When we was cleaning those things on Wednesdays, our church on Wednesdays and Saturdays, cleaning it up and down, Lysol, everything, doorknobs, everything. We was doing those, and we even talked to some companies, but those companies are really jacking the prices up high. It was almost $1,000 per spray per. Every time they came to Grace First Baptist Church. And we need to have it cleaned on Tuesday before Bible studies, and then Friday or Saturday before Sundays. And then in between, with spraying the doorknobs and stuff, and they're talking about, man, $1,000 every time. So I guess Billy and Roberto and all those who were doing it before will keep doing it again. And we are ordering supplies so we can keep our place safe. We are doing that. Not only are we going to do that, but we're also going to have, when you come back, how we're going to come back, we're going to have, say, case in point, if the deacons are in the very front row, the row behind the deacons will be empty. We're going to have a row and skip a row for social distancing. And we're going to have it in each corner. There will be a family in one corner, 6 feet, another person, 6 feet, another person. And so we're going to do that. So how are we going to bring you back and know how many people are going to come back? Well, we talk to the deacons. Our deacons are going to do a survey. They're going to survey each member in their group and see how many people want to come back to in-person worship. When I get that survey, I'm going to take that survey. We're going to look at it. We're going to make sure those pews in between are marked off so you can't sit there. And so we're going to say, okay, if we have 250 people want to come back, we're fine because we got top and bottom. But if 500 people want to come, then the thing that we're going to do, I'm looking at, is having an overflow if our director and technology person can overflow us into the MPC. If he can't do that, we will have to have 2 services. I would prefer the overflow. Whatever equipment we need to get, Grace, we're going to have to get. But if we don't, if we're not able to do it and we have to have 2 services, listen to me carefully. Bible study, Sunday school starts at 8:30, I'm sorry. Our first morning service is at 9:45, and we want to get through quick because people got masks on by at least 11:15. That means to spray and get it ready for the next service would have to be at 12 to 1. 12 to 1. So you hear it from the pastor. That would be the time we just cannot do a 7 o'clock service and then have those people stay all day and be ready for the 9:45 service. It's the same technology people. It's the same people singing with a few people here, maybe the same deacons. And so we can't stretch them like that. So, but if we do have to have 2 services, I've already talked to the associate ministers, Reverend Hall, who does a wonderful job. He's already worked out a schedule for preaching for me because I assure them that this pastor is not going to preach all those services every Sunday. Now, I will preach first Sunday twice, maybe third Sunday twice. But other than that, the associate ministers will fill in and preach that second service. And I know that they can do a wonderful job because we're doing a lot of expository preaching training. And I trust those guys that they're doing exactly what God has called them to do. So we're going to practice proper distancing and PPE. We're going to have that deacon do a survey to see how many members want to show up for in-person worship services. And then we're going to take those numbers. We're going to look at those numbers and see if we can have 1 service at 9:45. If not, and everybody want to come back, we'll have 2 services, 9:45 and 12. Prayerfully, we can do the overflow because our MPC can hold 600 people. So if we cut it down to 250 and we space out the chairs 6 feet apart, then we can get a lot of people in the MPC and we can control what's going on in our church. Just know, Grace First Baptist Church, we may have some members coming. We already talked to people who want to come when we go back in-person service. So we want to make sure those visitors come in. We want to make sure they come into the sanctuary. So don't get upset if you have to go to the MPC. Just know we're going to be there together worshiping God, and you'll be right there for fellowship. And so that's how we're going to reopen. And then finally, as the questions come in, when do we reopen? When? My thing is, we was waiting on phase 1 to come. Phase 1 has come. The mayor has said it, and I had one of the outlines that I had here that I got from the mayor, actually from GA 18. This was Governor Abbott's 18 orders. He said this: churches and places of worship remain open. We remain open because we're not subject to that, but yet we are subject to maintaining safety. With that said, Grace First Baptist Church, the earliest that we can go back, and I think would be safe for us, and I'm going to explain to you why, is the last Sunday in June. That's the 4th Sunday. That just happened to be church anniversary. That'll be our 45th church anniversary. That's the earliest. If that date doesn't work because we see some things going on, we'll look at the first Sunday in July. I think that's the 5th of July, the first Sunday in July. We'll look at going back then. The reason why we're doing that, and the reason why I'm looking at this, is because the mayor is going to reopen San Antonio with guidance from the governor and Judge Wolf, Judge Nelson Wolf. They're going to reopen it phase 1, and then we're going to eventually go to phase 2. So if there's going to be a spike, it's going to happen in between phase 1 and phase 2 as they reopen more and more. Not just 25%, maybe 50%. So if we take our time and wait till the end of June, if a spike occurs, we don't have to come back and say, okay, we open up the second week in June, now we got to close again. If a spike occurs, we're not even open anyway. So all we got to do is update our members and say, hey, we were going to open the last month, the 4th Sunday in June, which is our anniversary Sunday, but now we're not going to open up again until maybe the end of July because we just had a spike of COVID-19 disease infections. So I think it's smart for us to set a date for the end of June, but just realize those dates are not etched in stone. If the spikes occur and we're watching that, that's why we set a late date. If they do occur, then what we're going to do, we will let you know, hey, that date has changed. We'll communicate that to you, YouTube, Facebook, whatever we can, call outs, and we'll let you know, hey, those dates have changed. So those are 2 dates we're looking at, and we're looking at doing it carefully, looking at doing it the way that God said do it, to be obedient to the government, as long as the government does not tell us we can't worship, and they have never said that. They have never said that. Thank God for our leaders, never said that. They're supporting us with that wholeheartedly. And we're going to support them too. That's why we're doing what we're doing. So if there are any questions, I thank you. Just remember what we had to do. Refocus with our hearts. Just remember what we had to do. Redirect our service. Just remember what we have to do. We open with care. Carmen Miles is going to come on now, communicate with us. And your questions, I'll take your questions, and hopefully we'll get it done here in a few minutes.
Hello, Pastor. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good evening, Carmen. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening to you. Thank you for the opportunity to join you on this evening for this State of Grace. And thank you for taking the opportunity to even do this on our behalf so that we're informed and we're knowledgeable about how we move forward in this pandemic. Demetrius and I just want to confirm with you that overflow option is definitely feasible should we go that route. So that is definitely an option for us. But I do have a few questions.
Okay.
One of which is, what is the capacity of the church and the MPC Center in regards to the overflow? And you mentioned getting numbers from the deacons. Then how will that then move forward? Will there be assigned seating of some sort? How will we manage that?
Okay. The first thing is Grace First Baptist Church. If we didn't have COVID-19, we could jam people in the Grace First Baptist Church. We could jam over 800 people in Grace First Baptist Church. Matter of fact, we did it one time at a funeral. We had 1,000 people coming to Grace First Baptist Church. But really, Grace First Baptist Church can hold over 800 some people in the sanctuary. So because of the sanctuary ways, we have 2 stories. The first floor in the main sanctuary, and then the top, second floor there. So we can hold about 800 people there. In the MPC, if we were to have chairs only, we can put about 600 people in there and still be within the fire marshal guidelines. If you go inside, you can look on our occupancy certificate, and you can see how many people we can put there in the MPC. And the same thing with the sanctuary. It says 709 people, but it doesn't take into consideration that we can add the people to the balcony. So, but we can do that. So we have the capacity of really, if we needed to, when we didn't have this disease, really total space, both buildings, about 1,500 people. So we have that capacity. Now the deacons themselves, under the guidance of Deacon Major Hall, the chairman, and Deacon Cato, the vice chairman, James Cato, what would happen is they would give their members, they would talk to their members and say, okay, who wants to come back in the service? They'll write their name down, they'll have a number, and then they would give me the total number. And then what we would do with our staff and those ushers who want to come back, because our ushers are dealing with some ailments too. We got some pre-existing conditions in our churches. So we want to make sure that they're safe. So our staff, maybe our deacons, will have to help us as we bring our people in. So if you come in as a family, we're going to assign you to the outer seatings in the pews. So we want families on the outer seating. Reason why we do that, because families can come in together and they can get up together and leave first. We don't want anybody standing around, hello, how you doing? We love everybody, but if we're going to have 2 services, you got to go. And then number 2, if you're going to have an overflow, we really need to get out of there so that we don't do anything or subject ourselves to anything. But if you go outside, you can distance yourself and you can have all the fellowship you want. I said before, Grace is a church that have church after church. So that's what we do. We get our survey from our deacons. They will get us our numbers. We know our capacity. All family members will be seated together. There will be no children church at this time because we can't control it properly. So youth and children church will not take place. So all the families, you have to bring your children and youth with you, and they will have to sit with you. They can't be up and down the church all around because that's not safe. They would have to sit with you in a family. And if that family's there and there's another family, Okay, we'll space and there'll be that family. We'll space and there'll be that person. So families, we want to keep you on the outside and then keep those single people on the inside if we can. That's the goal. Families leave first. We will control that. And then everybody else can leave first. We think it's feasible. We think it works. Even they're even doing that now. Viewing families in Bexar County, and you guys can group together. You can hang out together as families, but as families, you gotta have that 6 feet, maybe 8 feet between each other. So we're gonna do the same thing at Grace.
Wonderful, Pastor. Thank you. I think you addressed one of the next questions, and that was regarding our 2-minute meet and greet session. So I imagine that will not happen as we move forward in the next month or so. But can you speak to us a little bit about other things, traditions like our communion on first Sunday? Will there be changes there particularly?
I think what we can do for communion is if we're going to have those communion, we got in our pews, we got the new pews, and they're designed to put the communion cups in the pews. And that'll keep us from having to come around and really be close to one another. So when we prepare to take communion, we would still have the same social distancing, but we would make sure that those communion things are sanitized and put those out the night before. And so like you see on Sundays, the only person you'll probably see up there getting ready to do the communion is the pastor. We don't need the deacons to line up. We don't need any of those things. Those things are just going to take us from our social distancing. So what we will have, though, we'll put pews in the trays, the cups in the trays right behind the pews. We got plenty of those. And for the ones who don't have one, they can raise their hands, and then whoever ushering, we can give them one by keeping the proper social distancing. But if we do it the right way, we should have more than enough in those communion cups in those trays. And those are individual cups. They're already packed, so you don't have to touch anybody's cup but your own. And so we'll do those on a Saturday night. I've been doing it myself, coming in there, praying over it, putting them together. My wife will come in with me. Maybe a deacon and deacon wife will come in and do that. But that's how we do communion.
Pastor, do you think it will be necessary from a litigation standpoint that our members sign a form basically saying that the church is not liable should they become contracted by coming in contact with someone here at our church?
I think that is a given. Case in point, you go to Ross and you catch COVID-19, you can't sue Ross. You can't sue HEB. Even though HEB and Ross have their own liability insurance. So I think as a church, we have to trust our members and know that they understand that no matter where you go, the chances of catching COVID-19 are there if you don't practice proper PPE and social distancing. And if we're going to do what we're going to do, the chances are maybe they didn't catch it in the church. So they're going to have to do some tracing to even find out where they contracted that disease from. And they may trace back and it didn't even come to San Antonio. So to Grace First Baptist Church. So I would say, I think that would be more of a hindrance than a help. I think we have to trust our membership, like HEB trusts us to go in there and different organizations, different places, and then trust the Lord that he will bless us. But we do have liability insurance just in case somebody wants to sue us. God has blessed us, our staff, human resources, Stephanie Nelson, our board, making sure that we have our insurance. So we do have a really good comprehensive insurance package that will protect us in case somebody decides to sue us. Any more questions?
We do have a few more. Will there be water specifically made available? What are the restrictions regarding water fountains, and how many people will be allowed in the restroom facilities at a specific time, and who will monitor that?
Okay, what we will have to do is, and that's the big thing, is having a team. That's why having 2 services would be really hard. You got to have these team monitoring everything. We have 22 deacons. We know all of them will be there. We have staff. We have ushers. We have nurses. So it's going to take this group of people to work together to monitor these different stations. My water is something we have to look at. If you bring your water from home, then you have to take your bottles out with you. And in churches, people just don't police themselves. And so if we have to do that ourselves, and now we're making contact with bottles that they have. So for me personally, I would say stay away from the water bottles unless you really have to have water, because what's going to happen, those bottles and caps and stuff are going to be all over the place. And then we have to pick those up, and we may be exposing ourselves to some stuff that we wouldn't normally expose ourselves to. So for safety purposes, if you want to drink some water, I would advise you to drink it before you come into the church service. We want to make sure the church service is quick, but if somebody's coughing, and we know that we have nurses, and we will bring them some water like we do now. So we will take care of that. And just know we're going to make these services as quick as possible, so you don't have to spend a whole 2 hours in a mask. Because I don't want to be in there a whole 2 hours in a mask. So we're gonna make sure our service goes smooth like it is now during our live stream.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Pastor. What is the obligation of anyone who, say they come and they have a temperature of 99 or above, and we turn them away for that particular day? What is their obligation to report to us, what the findings are? And is that information that we would divulge and communicate to the body as a whole?
I think that the first obligation is for that person that we turn away with a temperature of 99 or greater. They're obligated to go and report that to their primary care doctor or to emergency room. Fill out the proper paperwork so that those officials can trace them and find out who they came in contact with last. And I think after that, because they said I went to Grace First Baptist Church, then what's going to happen? The task force is going to make contact with us. And since you're the communication director, Carmen, you're gonna come in with some information for that group as well as we make contact with them. And then when they do let us know it's one of our members, we don't have to let them know who the member is. We just have to let them know that it's one of our members. Case in point, we don't know all the 19 or 2,000 people who are affected. We just know there's 2,001 people. So we'll do that. We do the same thing. We just let our members know, hey, due to COVID-19 and possibly being at Grace First Baptist Church, all our in-person services are canceled right now. We're gonna call in Orkin, who we talked to today, got a quote from, and have him come in and sanitize our place, our church from top to bottom, our MPC from top to bottom, multi-purpose center, to make sure that when we do come back, not in person, but when we do live stream, we are safe. So the obligation first is for that person to go to their primary care doctor, report that, let them trace them, let them test them to see if they do have COVID-19. It may be an upper respiratory infection. It may be something else. It may not even be COVID. So they can come back and say to the healthcare team, report back to the healthcare team, I went to my doctor, I don't have COVID-19, I'm negative, I just had some congestion, and therefore I had a fever. Okay, we'll wait till your temperature go back down. The healthcare team will say, then you can come back to Grace. We don't want you in with a 99 above temperature. So that's how they should do it.
Pastor, Sister Sheila Vardaman would like to know what the plan is for Children's Church going forward.
Okay, right now, because of children and how we have to manage them, we're going to come back to in-person Children's Church at a later date. We know that we're waiting for a vaccine for prevention or cure, but that's not going to happen. Maybe they're saying to the end of the year, maybe next year, more likely to next year. So we're going to have to manage that. So we may have to Zoom our Children's Church like we're doing. So maybe Sister Vardaman, before we have our live stream service at 9:45, we have Children's Church story time. So all our children can get some story time. And a lot of churches are doing that now. Before they go live stream, they have story time. Or it may be after church. When the people are at home, we can do story time for our children, so they have Children's Church after church. There's different ways we can do Children's Church without having in person, because there is a disease going around. Something is affecting our children now through COVID-19, and it's hit 14 states. And so we have to be careful with that. They don't know what it is yet. They don't know how it's affecting. They know it's affecting them, but they have to do more research. So we have to take care, but there are ways to keep our children connected through Zoom.
Our church, our choir members are anxious to know how they will be scaled back. Approximately how many people will be able to sing on Sunday mornings for
Amen.
Service?
We miss you, choir. All our choirs, we have 5 of them total. We thank God for Sister Allen and Demetrius Green, and I called out their name, Brother Bohannon and Eddie, and we thank them for Melanie and Pam and Etaj, all those who are playing and making it possible. But Sister Allen, I've been talking to her, and when we do come back, we can't come back with a full choir. Our choir stand can only hold maybe 60 people. So we have to do social distancing. So it may be that when we come back, it would be a mini choir, just a bigger version of a praise team. I will get with Sister Allen. We will talk about that and see, okay, can we beef up the praise team to take it from 3 to 8? And then rotate choir members in to sing on Sundays. We may be able to go up to 12 because the choir stand may be able to have social distancing where we can go from 3 to 12. But we don't want to go to 20-some people up there because we need to keep the proper distancing. So we will measure that and see how many people we can put up there, because you not only have to measure side by side, but they're also singing behind us as a pastor and associate minister. So when I sing, I really need them. After they sing, really, I don't go up there until they move down. So we may be able to get 15 people up there, but we'll let you know, choir, how many people we can hold up there safely, but we're ready for you to come back too.
Pastor, thank you for answering all of our questions this evening. We have quite a few online who, for whatever reason, they're not ready to just come back in the next 3 to 4 or 5 weeks. And we just want to encourage them and remind them and emphasize that we will still continue with live streaming. So if you could just expound upon that last question.
Yes, we do understand the nature. And really, if we're looking at this thing the way we got it planned out, we may not come back until the end of July. It all depends on how it goes with the spikes and the different cases, that uptick in cases and a resurgence, I say, in cases. We're just trying to give our people a timeline, because we already have some people who want to come back in service and worship. For those people, we're going to try to do that the 4th Sunday or the 1st Sunday in July. That may not happen, but those are some goals. So we're not rushing you back. If you don't want to come back and you don't feel it's safe, please don't come back. Go and watch us on live stream. And if we do our survey and we look up and we only have 25 people coming back out of the whole group, then that's what we'll be doing anyway. And so we'll just get that little group in, and we'll be glad to just do live streaming until the Lord bless us with some more safety measures and mitigation that would help us in the future. So don't feel obligated that you have to come back. If we do come back in the end of June, end of June is a whole month away. Unfortunately, people have to go back to work, but we don't have to go back to church to worship God right now. We're still doing Hebrews 10, forsaken. We're not forsaken. The government just told us, hey, we actually do it for us, and that's why we're doing it. So listen, we're going to have live stream going on YouTube and Facebook. We're going to be there every Wednesday night and every Sunday. Even when we come back in in-person worship, we will still be live streaming, because we are reaching people all over the country. Matter of fact, we're reaching somebody in London. So my brothers and sisters, God has taken us beyond the walls of grace. He will
That's right.
just making sure that we can follow our leaders.
Okay, we had a few technical difficulties there, but we caught the end of that. So I didn't mean to interrupt there, but that concludes our questions.
Okay. Well, once again, Grace, I thank you. The state of grace is this: God has blessed us. God has been good to us. We have been fortunate that none of our members at Grace First Baptist Church that I know of has contracted COVID-19. Unfortunately, some of our members have lost loved ones, whether it be in New York or Kentucky or Louisiana, whether it be in New Jersey, in Houston, different places, California, different places in the United States. And our hearts go out to our extended members and the members of our Grace family who lost loved ones. We can say God has been good to us. He truly has. There's 1.4 million cases of COVID-19 in the United States. Over 85,000 deaths, maybe 86,000 deaths, one too many. But at Grace First Baptist Church and many other churches, God has blessed us. So make no mistake about it. The State of Grace is strong. We're strong spiritually. We're growing through this Facebook and YouTube. And if we have to use it to the end of the year, we'll use it to the end of the year. We're doing great. We don't want to, but we will. We're going to do it to the end of the year, we will. Financially, you have been given beyond measure. We thank God for your generosity. Don't stop. Because if we can't come back in person, we're going to be doing more and more with our live stream and with our capabilities in Zooming for Children's Church and youth department and stuff like that. So we ask you to give more if you can. Be more generous than you've ever been before. So we're strong that way. And we're strong physically. I know mentally, there's some challenges. I can do some counseling. We got some other people at our church who are counselors, who I send people to. Just to talk to you. We're going through bereavement now. Sister Vanessa Allen lost her father. Sister Ella Smith told me today she lost her sister. We know that Sister Abbott lost some cousins. Some are still sick. Man, we got things going on all over the place. But through it all, God has kept us. So if I was to sum up the State of Grace, spiritually, we are strong and we are growing. Financially, we are strong and we are growing. Physically, we are strong and we are growing. Mentally, we are in this battle. But just know the battle's not ours, it's the Lord's. And if the Lord is on our side, then what do we have to fear but fear itself? Be safe, be careful, and just know, Pastor is monitoring this. And if I get enough answers from you guys to say, hey, Pastor, we don't think we should come back until July, end of July, or the first week in August, hey, Pastor will listen to the membership because the membership has some great things to say. So listen, I just want you to know the State of Grace. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Carmen and D'Amikas, for doing your work. Thank our staff for going back 2 days a week, doing their work, making sure they can help Grace First Baptist Church. Thank the Lord that he's still God, he's still on the throne, and prayer still changes things. Listen, stay in touch with the website for more updates. Stay in touch with the deacons, with the staff, and pray for the pastor. And may God richly bless you as we continue to deal with COVID-19. It may have affected the creature, but it can do nothing to the Creator. God bless you. See you next time at the State of Grace.